Okay, so for the historical record, could I please have your name and your age and where you were from originally?
Ian Robert Waxler. My age is 79. From Miami, pretty much.
Okay.
Most of my life.
Born there?
No, I was born in New York City.
Okay.
But raised and grew up in Miami.
If you want to just give a brief cliff notes of how you entered Scientology, there's a couple of sentences. We'll take it from there. Go for it.
Okay, I was a science teacher in Miami in a junior high school. And I was, wrestling with different emotional ups and downs and stuff like that. Problems with women, heartbreak, all that stuff. So I've been looking for ways to get my head together. I had dabbled in drugs, pot, so on. I did study some different religions and so on. And then a teacher in the school was doing the communication course and said he was getting a lot of wins from it. So that got me interested. I did the communication course and he gave me such a shot in the arm. He raised my confront, my tone level, and the people in Scientology were so uptone, they were just fun to be with. And I thought, these are the kind of people I want to be around. After the communication course, that was it. I never left Scientology.
Did you ever find, after you left Scientology, that same feeling of belonging or wanting to be part of a group?
No.
Okay. That's a very common thing that people say, where it's like, these individuals, there's something special about that group, and I want to know what it's all about.
Yeah. And there was a sense of purpose.
Right.
There was a higher purpose. Besides self-betterment, there was a group purpose.
Right. What is your case and training level?
I'm Class 8 auditor and Class 8 case supervisor.
Okay.
My auditing level is OT7, old OT7.
Old OT7. So you have not finished solo knots?
No, I've had about 3 intensives of knots. I have not done the solo.
Gotcha. Okay, so you did the wall fire. You did that. What was your impression when you first opened that pack?
Well, I give LRH the benefit of the doubt based on his prior statistics and wins.
Right.
I don't swallow it all hook, line, and sinker.
Right.
But I give him the benefit of the doubt that I'll try something out. So I've gotten a lot of wins on most of the tech, not 100% of it, but I'm not shy about criticizing things also.
Good. And that leads me to the next question. Have you had any kind of levels where you didn't really feel like you got much out of it and you were like, this is kind of a waste?
I have. I had a real hard time attesting to the OT levels.
Gotcha.
OT1, OT2, OT3, OT4. They were much less exciting than other case gains. I'll tell you where I did get huge case gains. The happiness rundown.
Wow.
And knots.
Okay.
I had 3 intensives of knots. Totally blew me. Totally exterior, stably exterior. Couldn't be audited. The end of every session was stably exterior. Not like on the moon, but definitely separate from this body.
Sure.
And even just chatting about it, I go exterior, just reviving it.
Amazing.
That's how amazing the release was.
And do you feel that now these days as well?
Yeah, just talking about it, I go exterior.
Got it.
Rehab,
That's amazing. For those who don't, because everyone has kind of a different description of what it's like to go exterior. For me, it's a bigness. I don't actually travel. Some people can go to the moon. I'm not one of those guys. It's getting real big. What is it for you?
Tremendous expansion of your space. You can fill the whole room.
Right.
Distinct feeling of separation from your body. Maybe just feel like you're outside your head. But the mass that you carry around on day to day, just poof, it just disappears.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool.
Definite reality that you are not this body.
Yeah, it's hard to describe too because you kind of had to be there and experience it.
It is. But a lot of people I've audited and worked with have had this comparable exteriorization on the CCHs, objective processes. Very commonly exteriorize a person, and the auditor will spontaneously go exterior because the PC goes out of the room, fills up the room like that, and the auditor just fills up the space with them.
Right. Amazing. Yeah. So it can happen anywhere. Another common area is TRs, OTTR0.
Yeah.
There's another common area where people are like, whoa. they finally find themselves for the first time even. Do you feel LRH kept his promise and that the tech does what he says it will?
Yeah, but it's being a little too picky-unish to expect 100%. You know, if you get a lion's share of wins, that's a pretty exciting result.
I agree. Okay. And then when he talks about the supernatural things like reading minds, moving objects with beams, like the Philadelphia Doctor course stuff where he goes like really OT, knowing by pervading, etc. Do you feel he was simply overstating things or was he describing actual potentials that he observed?
Well, I think he's speaking from a theoretical viewpoint, you know. And LRH reminds me a lot of Donald Trump. They're like two peas in a pod. They're exuberance and overstating things, but LRH was much more gentle and higher ARC than Donald Trump. But I love them both equally.
Yeah. Okay, that's amazing because you're the first person that actually kind of admitted that, where it's like, okay, he's describing potentials that we can achieve here.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Have you observed any of these actual OT phenomena, or has it all been sort of implied only?
Well, when you say observe the OT phenomena, you just mean in general? Or
Just in general, yeah. Just in general.
Oh, well, I think a lot of it is overstated. Maybe LRH attained some of those states and could do a lot of the. Probably he had, because remember he repeatedly states how he's had to undercut people's cases. You start out thinking, you know, like be 3 feet behind your head, and that works. So think everybody can do it.
Right.
So
do you think that's why some of the earlier processes like black and white processing, creative processing fell off of the map? That people just weren't able to do them?
Yeah, the out reality.
Yeah. Okay. In your observation now, with the experience that you had, what are the processes that really bite and really take hold of people and really work and give the most wins?
Well, the grades, pretty much. Objective processes, although they're extremely boring and tedious, obnoxious, etc., they really can get right A to B. Just you run those things, you can get big results.
Just on CCHs.
Yeah.
And they're cheap too. I mean, you just get a co-auditor and
just find somebody to co-audit.
Okay, awesome. Now, what happened to the original, OT levels, and how were they simply replaced? Like, there's a gap in my knowledge of there's these old OT levels, and there seem to be more drills, right? OT drills. And then all of a sudden, 67, 68, whatever it was, now we're talking about, and the other ones are just gone. Like, nobody runs them anymore, nobody talks about them. How was that approached, if you can recall? Like, how do they explain just, they don't work, so we're going to go this other direction?
Do you know who Lewis and Clark were?
The explorers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So imagine Lewis and Clark after 2 years crossing the wilderness. They're asked to, can you kind of put together what you went through? So, it's going to come out in patches. And LRH in developing the tech, it was developed in fits and starts. A little spurt here. Oh, wait, that didn't work. Let's try this different. So when you study the briefing course, you study all the different things that were tried. And like GPMs, goals, problems, masses, all the different tech that was tried and discarded or just found it was not as efficient. I mean, they used to spend hundreds of hours running an objective process or GPMs. Dynetics. We routinely ran people on Dynetics for 100, 200 hours. That's pretty typical.
Yeah.
I had at least 150 hours. I've run a couple of 100 hours on people.
Wow. So you would say it's just part of the research and development line?
Right.
Okay. Do they have value still, those old OT levels? Like, should they ever be CS?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's like, how about if you're going on this trek, exploring in this wilderness area, and you want to get from A to B, and you decide to go up this mountain. And then when you get to the other side, you realize you could have gone around this way. So you got there, but then you discovered we don't have to spend 2 years. We could do it here in 6 months. So there's a lot of trial and error.
Excellent analogy.
It didn't mean any of it was not valid or workable. It just meant it was not as efficient
Right. So you streamlined it
for the amount of time and energy put into it.
Okay. I just wish that he would have said at some point clearly, because he states it definitively so many times. This is the way you make it clear. This is the way you make an OT. It's help. It's engram running. It's this. He says it definitively. He's not saying this is a possibility.
Yeah.
So he's very definitive and never goes back and says, okay, that was, ignore that. and clears it up. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not highly tech trained, but when I do start my training, I'm doing the briefing course because I need it in order. I need it in sequence.
Yeah.
The academy levels, I've glimpsed through them, and I've, as for hacking, I've looked through them, and I don't get like the jumps and the flat out contradictions sometimes. So I wish you would have said, okay, here's what we got, and this is the best way up to this point, definitively. Maybe he does say that I'm just missing it, but I wish he would have. Okay, here's another thing that I'm asking all the old timers, just a logical thing. He talks about clears existing as a fact in book 1. He says he cleared people, there's running engrams, prenatals, etc. And then at 65, McMaster's is suddenly the first clear. So what happened to all the clears before McMaster's? Were they not really clear? Or was McMaster's put through a special battery of tests to make sure that he was clear? Or how do you explain that, if you can?
Well, were there earlier clears? Maybe, probably there weren't. But then you've got to consider the importance of establishing Scientology as a cohesive, workable technology. You don't want people to think anybody reading Dianetics or doing something else can become clear. You want to establish what the state of clear is referring to. Able to be at cause over mental matter, energy, space, and time. Being at cause over your own mental image pictures. Able to be at cause.
Right.
Because some people go clear and then, dive back in there.
Mm. So the definition sort of changed a little bit, you think? From like a 51, 52 clear to a 65 clear?
I'm not sure without reading the definitions in the tech dictionary.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that would be.
Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the Shiip and your tenure there.
Sure.
So what was it like arriving to the ship? Why did you go there in the first place? And tell me about your life there a little bit.
Do you know the word serendipity?
I do.
Some good fortune just falls in your hands. So, like a lot of people, I'd always dreamed in fantasies, oh, it would be cool to meet LRH, and maybe I could help him out or something like that. So, I met Captain Bill in Denmark when he was setting up the FOLO, Flag Liaison Office, for all the European organizations.
What year was this? Sorry?
This was around 70.
Around 70. And when did you start the comm course?
69.
Okay.
Maybe it was 71. Yeah, 71 when I met Captain Bill. I was on the briefing course in Copenhagen, and I passed him on the stairway, and he was a magnetic personality. We got to chatting, and he signed me up to join the Sea Org. He had a big personality.
Yeah.
He was comparable to LRH in the ARC level and the personal magnetic
Charisma.
Yeah. He was a natural leader,
Yeah.
Just like LRH. You went in the room and LRH said, wow, come on over here and sit down. Tell me a little about yourself. With a big booming voice like that. But he made you feel big too. Even though feeling the size of somebody like LRH made you feel insignificant, but he made it safe for you to be a big person too, even though we knew we weren't.
Okay. So you arrived to the ship, and what was your first impression?
Okay, let me fill in a little bit.
Yeah.
Captain Bill regged me to join the Sea Org. He said, look, you could be in the Tech Training Corps and work at the FOLO here. So I was on the briefing course at the time. That seemed pretty exciting. I joined the Sea Org at Denmark, and they had a disaster in the kitchen making food for the crew. They had a crew of 30 or 40 people, and the food was just miserable. And they had nobody with any skills. So my family was in the restaurant business. I was raised in restaurants from a tiny age. I know my way around the restaurant, one end to the other. I said, Captain Bill, why don't you let me take over the kitchen and set up the food service, and then I'll train somebody. So that got started, and it was a tremendous success. The crew was so excited to have really nice meals at the end of it, and I always included a delicious dessert at the end of every
Must have
meal.
loved you.
They did. Everybody was gaining weight. I routinely got a standing ovation after every meal. Go, let's call the cook in here. Standing ovation.
Nice.
I mean, I just made them good American home-cooked meals.
Yeah.
Meatloaf, roast beef, all kinds of stuff that you would find in an American diner, a truck stop. So, after on that post for a few months, some missionaries periodically would come from the ship to do some type of mission, get in new tech, or straighten things out in an org. They stopped at the FOLO for some days, and they would write me up in their mission reports. What happened today? Well, we had this incredible meal. They've got this amazing cook at the FOLO. So, some people at on the ship, LRH's personal communicator, Ken Urquhart, read about me and said, we have to get this guy to the ship. So they put in a request to have me transferred to the ship, and that's what happened.
Based on your cooking.
Based on your cooking. I got posted as LRH's personal cook, LRH and Mary Sue. And that's how I ended up going to the ship.
Okay, and then you met LRH, I believe, the first time when You were going through his bar, looking for some
Exactly.
liqueurs or whatever to
Looking
cook.
for sherry wine.
And what happened? Tell me.
So I'm clinking around. He's got this. Now his office was the first class dining room on the upper deck of the ship. Windows on both sides. There are halls around the upper staterooms were the top deck, and there was a walkway on either side with windows and all that. And the LRH office was in there. Maybe it was 4 times the size of this room.
Okay.
Nothing elaborate. So they had a bar, a small bar with a counter and all that. So I went in there looking for some cooking wine, and I'm moving bottles around and stuff. I don't want to bother LRH. And he hears me clinking around. He says, "Wow, what's going on?" "Hello, excuse me, sir. Sorry, I'm looking for cooking wine." "Oh, you're the new cook." So that's how I met him.
And then you started cooking for him immediately. What was his feedback on your meals?
My statistics were compliments versus complaints. I was instructed to write down exactly what he said, which I did, and I still have my journal. And the messengers would relay what he said. "Well, tell the cook, this was a fabulous chocolate cake. We really enjoyed it." And the messenger would dutifully come down. "The Commodore said to tell you the chocolate cake was superb," or whatever.
Yeah.
And every meal I got a verbal message.
Feedback.
Yeah.
And were your stats generally good?
Yeah.
Was there anything he didn't like?
Yeah, there would be.
Like what?
Well, probably the biggest thing that stood out is he was very particular about how the pancakes were. Now, you remember the last time you had pancakes in Denny's?
Yeah.
Or House of Pancakes?
Sure.
These people have it down to a science.
Fluffy.
Every pancake comes out perfect.
Yeah.
So when you make them at home, it's very easy to make not enough water, the frying pan is not hot enough, they just sit there, you've added too much water. So getting to be a perfectionist at making pancakes is a little bit of a skill. And I hadn't really mastered it. I didn't make pancakes that often. So one day for breakfast, I was making him pancakes. "Oh, these are too gummy." "Okay, wait. Let me send back another plateful." I made another plate. "Wow, these are too whatever." I made about somewhere between 5 and 10 plates of pancakes. He would take a bite, and then if he didn't like it, he would reject it, and the messenger would carry it out and be eating it in the home. The messengers were all lined up with plates of pancakes. So
At least you fed them. Did you ever get it right? The pancake recipe?
No, I think he just finally decided he'd had enough pancakes.
All right. And was there a particular favorite meal of LRH?
Well, he liked, he was from the Midwest, so he liked truck stop food,
So like meat,
roast
potatoes,
beef,
and stuff like that.
meatloaf, typical American diner food. I also made him Chinese food on occasion. He did enjoy that.
Nice. Okay. What is your fondest memory of Ron, if you can narrow it down to just one particular instance?
Yeah, I could. The parties on the ship were stellar. Like no party you've ever been to. There was music, there was dancing, there was food, buffets, there was unlimited booze. And they would start, whatever time they would start, 5 o'clock, and they would last till morning.
Wow.
The whole crew. And they were parties that you will never forget because the enthusiasm and the spirit. LRH was there with Mary Sue and the kids, and the whole crew spent the whole night partying.
And Ron was there, and there was no
Yeah.
restriction about booze or anything like that.
No. And the other interesting thing is Ron was a workaholic. He worked every single day. Every day. Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, birthday, whatever. Maybe not the entire day, but every day he was working. So when he would take off for like his birthday, we had a big party. He would come down and he'd spend, some hours with the crew and everything like that. But he was not one for wasting a lot of days.
Understood. And what was your relationship with him personally? Was it one of respect, fear? Not because some people, I guess now they're with revisionist memory. They're like, "Oh, it sucked the whole time." I'm like, "Why would you have stayed for so long if it was so bad?"
Well, if he got pissed off at you, he would rip you a new asshole. But
why? Why wouldn't he keep his TRs? How do we reconcile what he teaches?
Okay,
with
when we ran into rough weather and the ship was being tossed all around and dishes were flying all over and books were flying off the shelf. God damn, what the hell is going on? Get the goddamn ship under control. I mean, you could hear this like half across half of the ship. He had a furious temper, and that was something you would hear. Whenever he was pissed off, you could hear about it. Half of the ship away. I never got screamed at.
Okay, I was going to ask, did you ever get your butt?
No, he was very nice.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't there long enough to experience his purity, I guess.
Yeah, you left the ship after about a year and a half?
Yeah.
Okay. And why did you leave the ship?
I was totally off purpose. First of all, I had to deal with all the rest of his personal staff. The personal staff were called the household unit. They were his steward. Mary Sue had a steward. Half a dozen messengers and stuff. And there was so much catcalls and back fights, backstabbing.
They got political there.
I wanted to get on with it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't train these young teenage girls into the restaurant business. And I continually wrote up complaints, correction alerts on them to try to scold them into behaving. I probably used too much force.
Gotcha.
Because I wasn't able to. And finally I just said, what the hell? It'd be easier if I leave than try to train all these people.
What were they fighting about? Just whatever,
just
petty stuff?
Following orders and doing things, But I was young and immature. I was about 28 or 30. And these girls were like 14 and 15.
Sounds annoying.
Very annoying.
And they were high in rank too. So
Absolutely.
So power probably went to their head.
They had higher ranks than me.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So, how was rounding off the ship? It was just like, "Hey, sir, I'm leaving," or was it dramatic?
Oh, getting off the ship?
Yeah.
Well, no.
Were you sec check with
the yeah. The sec check. It took about a week or two to route out.
Oh wow, that's nothing.
They have a policy that you can't force somebody to stay on the ship. So if somebody wants to leave, they let you leave.
Okay, so you got off the ship. What was your next step? Where did you go?
Well, they gave me a ticket to, let's see, where? I think back to Copenhagen, which is where I joined the Sea Org.
And that's where you entered the TTC and eventually moved up to Class 8?
No, I went back to Miami.
Oh.
And did through Class 4. And then came out to Los Angeles and did the briefing course and through Class 8.
What years was that?
72 to 75.
Okay, so 75 you became a
Wait,
president.
no. No, 75 I came to Los Angeles.
Okay.
75, yeah.
And so that was a
I
briefing
finished
course.
in Miami in 75,
Okay.
the summer of 75. And I came out here and got on the briefing course.
And that took you a couple of years?
A couple of years, yeah.
And
To
then,
go through Class 8 took me to about 3 years.
so we're talking about 78?
78, yeah.
Okay, so now you're a Class 8 auditor. What happens next? You're auditing, you're doing your thing.
I did the Class 8 case supervisor course.
Okay.
And I worked being mentored at American St. Hill organization. I did some training and interning at ASHO and also at the Advanced Org.
Okay.
Different positions.
So at the PAC complex, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Big
The American St. Hill is where I did all my interning for the Class 8 course and the Class 8 internship, Class 8 case supervisor course.
Okay.
And I worked there for on and off for about a year.
All right. And then what happens?
Case supervising and as acting senior case supervisor at ASHO.
Okay.
Then I got hired at the Celebrity Center. They needed someone to cover the post of senior case supervisor, and I worked there for a year.
Okay. All right. And was Yvonne around then, or
Now,
she had already passed away?
yeah,
I gotcha.
I did know Yvonne, but she had passed away. Yeah.
Okay. So you did about a year at CC, and then what?
Well, I basically got drummed out of Scientology.
Explain what happened.
You know, they had missions that would come around to the orgs and decide to look for the bad guys.
Hmm.
You know, and they would have heavy ethics in the org, and all the executives at Celebrity Center, in 2 rounds of relieving people of their post, all the executives in Celebrity Center were kicked out or sent to the project force,
Wow.
taken off post.
So the climate became
Yeah.
pretty bad.
And I was non-Sea Org, so they just basically dismissed me without any explanation.
Just said you're gone.
We don't need you to come in tomorrow. Okay.
Was there a declare or comment? Or
A year later,
A year later, they declared you.
there was no explanation for about a year,
Okay.
2 years.
So then finally you get your declare. What was their charges? What were you guilty of?
Don't even remember. You know, it's kind of like Donald Trump. You find out what you want to achieve, and then you make up some charges.
Yeah.
Just
To fit. Yeah, to fit.
basically, I mean, really behind the scene, I was getting paid $25 an hour as the case supervisor.
Wow, that's a fortune for C
It was.
member.
That's what they had to pay in their HGC. They were paying Class 8 auditors $25 an hour, so they had to pay me at least that much.
Wow.
So, but it was probably financially a strain on the org because they were not very skilled at generating large amounts of money.
So there wasn't like you were never full of PCs at that point in time. You didn't have a whole lot of PCs, is what I'm saying, or that you were CSing, the HCC.
Oh, there were enough PCs to keep them busy, but you got 30 or 40 staff people working there, and the expenses of running the org, I don't know what they were, but if you take in $20,000, then I don't know that even barely covers it.
Gotcha.
Even with all the staff getting $20 a week.
Right. So only the Class 8s were making some money.
Right.
So
They were
there's,
making $25 an hour.
and how many Class 8s were there?
Maybe 2.
Oh, so that's not even that. That's not huge. Okay. Well, I guess one day we'll figure out. We'll go through the files and be like, this is why Ian Waxler got declared. All right. So you were declared, then you decided I'm just going to do auditing in the field and never went back.
It took about a year to get anything in writing declaring.
Oh.
I finally, I went along with it, and I thought I'm going to follow policy. I'm gonna fight to try to get a ethics hearing, a committee of evidence, whatever. I'm going to follow Scientology policy.
Yeah.
It requires that I get some justice.
Right.
I tried that for months. I went to the FOLO in Los Angeles, and I said, I want to help out. I'm going to volunteer to help you file stuff or whatever's needed here so I can try to move myself up in
conditions.
In the justice. Right, exactly. In the justice system by being a contributing member and work myself up the conditions. I did that for 3 months, and it was going nowhere. The head person in the ethics office at the FOLO in Los Angeles was replaced 3 times in 3 months. So the person, you got into communication with the person in charge of the justice system there, and they said, "Oh yeah, I know this is screwy. This is totally unfair. There's nothing I can do about it." A month later, there was a new person and said the same thing. Yeah, we know you got jerked around. There's nothing we can do about it.
If they can, who can?
They decided, if you decide somebody's a bad guy, you can find enough things.
So this is when LRH was still supposedly around, but all apparently hiding and on the run. We'll I don't know what the actual story is, but did you ever try to reach out to him or no? You were just okay. How do you reconcile a man of his caliber that he has the tech, and then probably 78 things really 77, 78 with Quentin's death, the Geo scandal, Mary Sue arrested, like a whole lot of motivators.
Yeah.
What do you think happened there? Do you have any kind of thoughts about what could have possibly gone wrong?
Well, same thing that's gone on with Donald Trump. You create enough enemies who want you gone. And LRH, he was bucking the AMA, the psychiatrists, the U.S. government, CIA.
She didn't just a level of suppression. I mean, that's enough for any man. But okay,
you could be a saint. Imagine you decide you have this perfect record of outstanding accomplishments in all areas of your life, and you decide, I'm going to run for mayor of Los Angeles. Don't you think they could find truckloads of garbage to make up about you?
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
Give them a crumb, they're going to make a whole cake out of it.
All right. So he needed.
People are very dishonest in general.
Yeah.
They lie, such facility.
And even the old man couldn't hold it off.
No.
Okay. What do you think is going to take to fix Scientology going forward?
Wow. I think it will survive. It'll just evolve. That it's survived this long. Maybe it'll migrate into some other form, slightly modified management. But I think it's survived this far. There's a good chance it'll continue.
A lot of people pin it all on Miscaviage. Do you feel that way? Do you feel that what he's replaced it'll get solved, or do you think there's a problem with the whole system besides Miscaviage?
So I saw something on YouTube about strange airplane crashes. There was a story about these two pilots in a commercial plane that had taken off and the alarm went off in the cockpit. They had no clue what to do. What happened is the pressure sensor had triggered because the cabin was being depressurized. The door was loose. And they couldn't figure out what to do, and they lost consciousness and the plane crashed. So the analogy I'm trying to make is you've got David Miscaviage, who's like the fumbling pilot who knows a little bit, but he's totally unprepared for this emergency. And in the pilot's case, the plane crashed. David Miscaviage, he's flying in a plane that's not quite suitable for taking passengers every day, but he hasn't crashed it. So he's got a certain amount of staying power.
Got it. All right. Any interesting auditing stories, such as big wins or strange phenomena that happened or anything like that with PCs?
Well, not anything like to write big stories about. Just mostly the wins are fairly routine. Having a big win that you can't continue auditing, you're totally exterior. I routinely saw people do the personality test, come in at a very low state of ability, and after several weeks of auditing, have a complete personality change.
Mm.
See, the OCA, Oxford Capacity Analysis, it creates a picture of a valence you're in, an identity, and all these different traits. The questions are finding out about different traits, which added up form this valence. So a couple of weeks of auditing can change a person's beingness from this real serious, low-tone person to upbeat and cheerful. How many people could do that in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, in a couple of weeks without medication or anything like that, or drugs. That's amazing.
Exactly. Just pull them out of this sticky mess. Total change of viewpoint on life.
So you could possibly solve a lot of clinical depression and things like that if psychiatrists learn to audit.
Yeah.
That might be a good project to teach them.
That could happen, but there's so much money involved in these other professions and stuff.
Yeah.
That's why they want to kill Donald Trump. They just don't want him to come back.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I agree. Are you personally interested in continuing your bridge?
Yeah.
Are you making steps towards that? Or?
No, not really. I'm in fairly good case shape.
I can see that.
My body's starting to feel, I'm going to be 80 in a week.
Yeah.
My body's starting to feel the age, but mentally, I'm very upbeat, and very little affects me.
Gotcha. So it happens when it happens. In other words, you're not actively looking to audit at the moment yourself.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So apart from Elrich's receiving constant attacks and his own PTSD, what else would you say kind of went wrong apart from him? In other words, what could have Sea Org members done better to maybe prevent all the bad PR that we ended up getting and things like that.
Wow. Well, it probably was expecting too much.
Mm.
First of all, most of the people in the sea are pretty low case level, pretty low education level. The higher up execs were fairly educated people. But he's working with people 14, 15, 18 who are not really, some of them aren't really that bright. So you have to deal with the aggravation of trying to train people.
Yeah.
And it's not like you just get your job done and continue down the road. You're continually trying to train people. And you just get worn down. Eventually, your free theta gets all spent.
So you think it was just setting too high expectations, and then just all that friction from the unhattedness and the stupidity that results just from general human behavior.
So
you know,
it wears you down.
Wears you down.
For me, after a year of it, I had enough. I could see that it was not going to change. They decided they wanted me to be this, the cleanup guy or whatever. My goal was to get tech trained, become an auditor and a case supervisor. So we were going down different paths.
Mm.
So LRH said, and I'll paraphrase, orders only become necessary where responsibility has failed. So you give yourself the order of what you want to be doing and what you should do.
Okay. If you were magically given, you are now the head of Scientology today, what would you do to repair things?
God, wow.
Somebody handed you Miscaviage's hat.
Well, the first answer that appeals to me is you go back to where you were last doing well. Where was Scientology last doing well? What was going on then? There was an inexpensive communication course. There was low level of Theta and heavy ethics was not part of the picture. People loved working in the org and hanging out. It was a fun place to be. So they've lost sight of that. They built all the beautiful orgs and buildings and stuff like that, but they've lost sight of the high ARC.
So how would you restore that?
Try to figure out what changes in policy have brought the tone level down.
Okay, so then when do you personally feel that period was? 65,
No, it was right around the time that LRH disappeared.
Okay, so 78 to 80.
Yeah,
that
right around in there. Heavy ethics came in, all kinds of missions, kicking people off post, declaring people. Hundreds of people were declared suppressive people. You know about the mission holders conference in San Francisco?
Yep.
You're declared, you're out.
It sounds so insane.
It wasn't, total insane.
Were you there for that, or were you?
I mean, I was around, I was not there.
What did you hear in the field? Like, what was the rumor lines that got going around?
Well, just that they had this big missionaries meeting, and anybody who raised any objection or even had a comment questioning the authority of the mission, get out. Escort this man out. You're out of Scientology. What? These are people who devoted 10, 20 years building up a mission network and were very successful. The most successful people in Scientology were the mission holders.
Right.
You met Bob Monchiello.
Yes, sir.
So his Riverside mission, they had something like 100 people on staff and 100 students on course. It was a booming mission.
Blow any org away in present day. Absolutely. Yeah. And the engram is still. I don't think anybody's still recovered. That still is
Now,
such a
if they could
huge
get
thing.
if they could get those people together and say, we want you to rebuild the orgs with the successful actions done in this mission, why wouldn't that work?
Right. Maybe an amnesty.
Now, yeah, sure. Now, the mission in Germany or Austria, the bronze org,
Runzor. Yeah.
so they have comparable success. It's 100 or 200 people on lines, 50 to 100 people on staff. They have their own building.
Amazing. How do you feel about other tech? Like there's always somebody who's got like, well, Ron missed this part, you know. So Captain Bill also is known for developing, I don't know, like 40 OT levels and stuff like that. How do you feel about all that?
Well, imagine you buy this fine car, a Maserati, and you meet this mechanic at the truck stop who says, listen, I'm going to clue you in on what you do is put a cup of kerosene in the fuel tank. Are you going to take a chance? So it doesn't mean Ron never said it's the only tech, that we have a workable tech. So if you got time to do the research, in a couple of dozen years and hundreds of people, then you can go down that. But if you have something that works, even if it's not perfect, why would you want to? Think of the arrogance involved in somebody who thinks they're going to redevelop the tech. They're saying, I know better than Ron. Some of them might know better than Ron, but his productivity, it just staggers the mind. You've got hundreds of brilliant pieces of tech.
Yeah, I told Bob, I was like, if I were to develop the tone scale, just the tone scale, that would be a monumental contribution to humanity. Just that one thing.
Yeah.
And it would probably take me like 10 years.
You could take the communication course alone and go to a foreign country and start this whole thing to bring people's tone level up, increase their ability. Just the communication course. Imagine training the whole country on the communication course.
Yeah.
And then you could do the same thing with the conditions, working up through the conditions. And in lots of other tech.
What would you, speaking of like third and fourth dynamic, what would you like to see the average Scientologist do? Because a lot of them are so inactive and they're just, I don't know, they're just not doing anything. What would you want them to start doing?
They could get interested in politics, local government, and so on. The issue is less Democrat and Republican than ethical and dishonest and unethical.
Agreed.
Because not all Democrats are bad, but the ones that make the biggest waves are the ones that are very low tone. They're less interested in what's good for the country than in gaining power. They would have to destroy the whole country to get rid of Donald Trump. They wouldn't acknowledge a single thing he's done. I'm not totally in love with everything he says and does. I'm in love with the beneficial things that he's done.
Agreed, and agree that nobody acknowledges it. It's, well, I've already said it before. It's a flat out, obvious attack on everything. Like he can do anything. Eat cereal, and so to say, look at how bad he's eating cereal.
Yeah.
It's absurd. And Ron, I think, also got attacked the same way.
The exact same thing they attacked George Bush, Ronald Reagan, etc. They called George Bush Alfred E. Newman. They called Ronald Reagan evil, Evil Empire. Phil Collins made mocking videos about him, Land of Confusion, and pressing the button, blowing up the world. So it's just the left hates conservatives.
What message do you have for those who gave up?
Well, they got stuck in a loss. You know, you're going down this road and, you hit a low part of the road. If you continue a little more, it straightens out. That's the way life is. You just got to push on a little further. And a lot of these and also some of them were subject to duress and abuse. I have a friend who put his little toddler daughter in the Sea Org child care system. And at the end of the day, he would come and find her with dirty clothes, dirty diapers, filthy and stuff like that. And after, I don't know, a year or so, he just had enough. He couldn't deal with the abuse. So there are people who have left with good reason.
And would you say, they should just keep going, or?
I don't know. It's a matter of personal integrity. I admire people who stuck it out for 5, 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
But I saw the writing on the wall, and I didn't see it going. My path was to pursue the technology and learn to apply it, not to be a little soldier in there. I would encourage everybody to embrace the beneficial technology they have acquired and continue to use it in their life to bring order.